bam, 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 bam. You see me now, the victim of the January OGL wars. My mind is a window, there's so much to explore. A Brandon Sanderson RPG, where did that come from? Oh, please don't let these shakes go on. Yeah! That might be my best one. What's up, nerdlings? It's your boy, the OGGM, coming to you live 8:50 in the morning on a surprisingly chilly November morning, despite it being bright. I am cold and sleepy. Maybe I'm coming down with something, or maybe I'm just, I don't know. Who knows? Not enough coffee, too much. Now, I didn't even know this was a thing, or maybe I did and I didn't pay attention to it. Anyways, the Kickstarter for the Brandon Sanderson STORMLIGHT RPG is going live in a day or two. Let's see. It comes from us, a company called Brotherwise Game. I know you've never heard of them. They make a lot of obscure board games and board game adjacents, but somehow they got their hands on the Brandon Sanderson license. If you don't know who Brandon Sanderson is, he's the guy who wrote Mistborn and Oathbringer and Steelheart, which I'm reading right now, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think he did some work on Wheel of Time. Yeah, he's one of those guys that writes, 7,000 page books. I'm trying to read Steelheart now. And you're like, oh, wow, it took you 3 pages to describe what anybody else could describe in like a paragraph. So I guess that's his secret, it's I don't know, man. I'm trying to read Steelheart now, and it's a slog. It is a slog, but I guess some people like his stuff. He's a multi-million-dollar best-selling author, hundreds of books, and one of these is the Stormlight setting, and Brotherwise Games has gotten the rights to the Stormlight setting to put out a role-playing game. It is scheduled to come out don't know. Looks like the Kickstarter is going live sometime next year. This is already being heralded as the D&D killer of the day. At this point, this late, labeling something the D&D killer is like labeling something blue. So many games has come out since OGL saying that they're, there's going to be blah, blah, D&D killer, blah, blah, blah. Black Flag was going to be Project Black Flag was going to be the D&D killer. The ORC was going to be the D&D killer. Shadow Dark was going to be the D&D killer. Greg Gillespie's game was going to be the D&D killer. A few days ago, we were all like, oh, Adventure Conquer King is going to be the D&D killer. You know what? Nothing's going to kill D&D. No matter how much of a horrible job Wizards does next year, you're not going to kill D&D. The only way D&D would die is if for some reason Hasbro decided it wasn't going to make the money anymore. And that's not going to happen because Hasbro is just branding D&D on anything they can, right? They're doing their own D&D channel, which has with Hasbro produced D&D content. Notice it's not Wizards of the Coast TV channel that's doing Wizards of the Coast produced content. No, Hasbro wants you to be very clear that the Hasbro Fast Adventures of D&D channel is their channel, and apparently Wizards of the Coast has nothing to do with it. Nowhere in any of the press is Wizards of the Coast or Gygax or Arnson or anything else mentioned. It's all Hasbro. But anyways, this was, I guess, announced a while back. But I just found out about this yesterday, and it is already being heralded as the next D&D killer, even though it's not scheduled to come out to the second half of 2024, which, yeah, if you're going to be a D&D killer, that would be the time to come out. Let's wait to see how bad D&D does and then release this. So, not a Brandon Sanderson guy. I don't know if this is big news or not, but it has been announced. Probably more appropriately to us is the Matt Colville finally dropped a date for the long-awaited Matt Colville role-playing game, which is going to be starting its Kickstarter next month for the cinematic fantasy role-playing game is the current running name. People who have seen it say it is a healthy combination of the best of fourth and the best of fifth and the best of a few other things. So that's exciting. I mean, looks like, that's going to give some new, much needed jump to the 4E fan base and the 4E love. And we know that I am a secret fan of 4E. And this is also being heralded as one of the top games is going to be the D&D killer, or at least the #1 contender. It's not who's going to who's going to topple D&D. That's already happened. Pathfinder toppled D&D for like 3 years. GURPS toppled D&D for like 2 years. You're going to be able to, there might be a game that sells more than D&D next year or the year after, especially since how Hasbro is handling it and how Wizards of the Coast is handling it. D&D sales might not be the #1 next year. There might be a game that gets more sales or more public recognition. Vampire, was another game that kicked D&D off the top of the sales, So yes, but to kill D&D, just to make every single solitary person go, yeah, I'm never going to play that game again. The only people who could do that is Wizards of the Coast would have to do something 1,000 times worse than what they did with January, and 1,000 times worse than what they did with the Pinkertons thing. And continuing the Mackenzie shit, like just continue to let that shit happen. Just continue to have, the Kyle Brink stuff happen. You do 2024 with a year of more Kyle Brink, more Mackenzie to arms crap. That's what's going to kill the role-playing D&D. The branding D&D, yeah, nothing's going to kill that. Nothing's going to kill the branding of D&D. But killing D&D, the role-playing game, that could happen. Is Stormlight going to be the game that can do it? Is Matt Colville's game that can do it? I mean, I think Matt Colville in the gaming community has more legs. I don't know, man. How many people out there are Brandon Sanderson fans? Because I only just started reading his stuff after hearing about it. And I got to say, so far, I'm like, dear God, dude, 3 pages to describe somebody's room? Okay, moving on. Let's see. Crucible 7. Remember, Crucible 7 was one of the first to announce that they were doing a D20 game at the end of January, and it was called C7D20. Since then, they have announced nothing. They were looking for some writers, but that was it. Well, now they have product coming out for their C7D20 game, even though the C7D20 game hasn't been released yet. So while you have absolutely no rule set for C7D20, you have product coming out that is specifically linked somehow to C7D20. We've got at least 2. We've got A Life Well Lived, and now we've got Uncharted Journeys. These are both projects that they're calling their Vault 5e C7D20 product line to the brain's not working this morning. Be both 5e accessible and C7D20 accessible. It's kind of like what Kobold did, or what other 5e adjacent, I love saying that, 5e adjacent companies have done. It's like, we're going to release product that you could use with 5e, or you could use with our system. Kobold with the whole Midgard stuff was like, you could use this with 5e, but really, you could use it with any D20 system. And then their Level Up 5e came out, and they're like, you could use Midgard with Level Up 5e, or you could use it with 5e, or you could use it with any D20 system. It's, it's kind of approachable. Right now, that seems to be where C7D20 is standing. It's like, you could use this with 5e. You could use it with any other system that uses 5e type stuff, Tales from the Valiant, Level Up 5e, 5e 2024, or you could use it with the C7D20 system, should it ever actually come out. I guess in one way, it's kind of clever because you're testing the waters, which is an important thing to do. To see if C7D20 has a market, and if then people go specifically, yeah, I really want to see this system explored, then they can do what, like DM Kurt's saying right here, and reverse engineer it. Reverse the unreleased C7D20 games from the supplements that get released. Yeah, that could be the plan. We'll see. Moving on, DC-20. This was announced. This is from the DM coach, and this was also announced as a D&D killer a couple of weeks ago, and then quickly got kicked to the curb as Stormlight is now the current #1 D&D killer. This one has got a Patreon. It's got alpha rules that are available for $14, and you can sign up for the Kickstarter for another Roll20 5e retro clone D&D killer. And finally, the other big, heartbreaker darling is this thing. Adventure Conqueror King Imperial Imprint 2. Which is at 290, because that probably hasn't been updated. 285, 290 out of its goal of 50K. So it's at 281K. So it's more than made its goal. It's got 1,569 backers, 19 days to go. The bare minimum to get this game is $50 to get the PDF of the revised rulebook, Judge's Journal, and Monstrous Manual. I have already said I'm not getting this. I have no need for another OGL, OSR, D20 game that I'm never going to use. I don't care how many things it does, unless it's going to make me a sandwich and do my laundry and, find me a wife or something. Yeah, I've already got this game. I've already got games that do with this game. But this is the current heartbreaker in the OGL OSR family that everybody's like, oh, yeah, this is the best game ever. And I was like, yeah, I remember when you said that about Shadow Dark and the Greg Gillespie thing and that other game and that other game. How long before this stops being the darling and they back something else? And that is where things stand. Meanwhile, news from my neighbors in Calabasas regarding Daggerheart, the other game that everybody was all excited about and thinking, oh, this is going to be the D&D killer. All Mercer and company have to do is announce it and say Campaign 4 is being used to be the transition from 5e to Daggerheart. And yeah, that would be the killer. But so far, nope, they seem to be focusing on a ragtag random other stuff. Mighty 9 was getting this huge revisit. They just had the thing in Wembley, which we talked about yesterday. They just announced more Mighty 9 projects coming up. And we're like, well, why of the 3 Mighty 9? And it's like, oh, because of the 3 Mighty 9 seems to be the one that got the best of both worlds. And plus the whole fascination with Jester and the whole Jester and the cupcake thing, So of the 3, that seemed to have been the one that got the most, I don't know, memes, I guess. So one I'm most well obscured from, I couldn't tell you anything that happened in Vox Machina other than, Joe Mangialia got the deck of the Hand of Vecna and Grog. I know more about the bear than I do about what actually happened in Campaign 1. I know nothing about Campaign 3 other than, it feels like he's destroying his whole world in Campaign 3 and killing off all his gods and killing off all the major NPCs, which, people would say, well, that's a sign that he's, transitioning from 5e. But really, until he says Campaign 4 is going to be 5e, or Campaign 4 is going to be Daggerheart, or Campaign 4 is going to be Illuminated Worlds, or hey, there's not going to be a Campaign 4. I'm going to do something completely different because I need a break. We don't know. So Daggerheart's still in my top 5, but it's not my #1 right now. Right now, #1 is the Matt Colville one. I think there's a lot of excitement about that one. And we know Matt Colville is guaranteed to, put out $1 million Kickstarters and always deliver, unlike, other people who say they're going to do things and then don't deliver. Or if you're an OGL person, I guess it's just to wait to see what happens with the Adventure Conqueror King. Of course, this is all the same stuff you said about, oh, we're all going to jump on the Castles and Crusades bandwagon, and we're going to be playing and running Castles and Crusades. You know how many Castles and Crusades games I've played? 3! So, yeah, We'll wait and see. That is it for this week's news from the victims of the OGL war. Notice I'm the only person that's still talking about this, which is either incredibly dedicated and awesome or incredibly dumb. But somebody has to keep this ball rolling, and it might as well be me because I got nothing better to do. And if you appreciate me doing this every week, why don't you toss a coin to your Witcher? Head on over to the Red Room, link down below, and pick up my merch. We got the ever-expanding galaxy of the Wretched Minions series with the release of my magnum opus, Wretched Slime. Plus, we've got the physical print of Good Guys Always Lose out for the Wretched Vigilantes. A lot of people are already waiting to see what I'm going to do with book 3, Henchmen Always Sing the Blues. And that's being worked on even as we speak. So if you want to make sure I have money to buy Steve the Cat Christmas presents this year, head on over and buy my stuff. Until next time, that's it. I will see you all later. Stay safe out there. Mick.